Whether you believe in ghosts or not, this is part 3 of my haunted house scary stories. These are real, honest experiences that I had living in this haunted house that my family and I used to live in. So we left off on part 2 with my niece Lexi. She was going down the hall in our basement, and she was closing the doors, like down the hall, just like reaching up and closing the doors. And she got down to our living room. She went to grab the doorknob, and she looked up and saw what she said was a tall man, and she said hi. We saw her say hi to apparently was a man standing in our laundry room. Before that happened, I did at that point had brought the Ouija board into our house. So I do believe that this man that she saw came through the board. When I originally got the Ouija board, my friend Brittany and I did use it specifically to try and speak to the girl that we believed was haunting my house, which, if you remember from part 1, was the girl that was murdered in a drag race accident by the teenager who was living in our house before we moved in. So we used the board to try and reach her, and we did get a spirit or some kind of paranormal entity answer back and claim to be her. And we asked her what her name was, and all she would spell out was Fiesta. So I'm not sure if it was her or if it was something pretending to be her, but all we could get out of her was that she wanted to be called Fiesta, and she also said, yes, I have been the one opening and closing doors. Yes, I have been the one changing songs on your iPod. If you remember from part 1, I mentioned that. And she said that she did like to join me in the bathroom when I showered. Obviously, that really freaked me out and made me really uncomfortable. We asked her if there were any other spirits living in my house, and she said yes, there was one other spirit that was already living in our house before she was, and she said that his name was Peter. We asked to speak with Peter, and Peter did not want to talk to us. I'm not sure if Peter was the shadow guy that my nephew had seen crawling across the ceiling of the guest room when he was sleeping in there, and if Peter was the one that was causing us all to have sleep paralysis at one point or another. So it sounds like, according to Fiesta, that Peter was living in our house, and then she joined, and then once I started using the Ouija board more and more in my house, more spirits started to haunt my house, specifically this tall shadow figure guy. After I brought the Ouija board into the house. I remember there was a tragic event that happened to one of our neighbors. They lived a couple houses down from us on our street, and this girl broke up with her boyfriend, and he came to her house in the middle of the night and opened her bedroom window, and apparently she would sleep right underneath her bedroom window, and he had reached in her window and slit her throat with a knife, and killed her. I vaguely remember a bunch of police cars, but I remember my family talking about it a lot and how tragic it was. We knew this girl's mom, but we didn't really know the girl very well. But yeah, it was very tragic. So yeah, that was really sad, and it just kind of like heightened our overall anxiety too. And this is when I had a sleepover with a few of my friends, and my bedroom was still on the top floor, but all of my friends knew that my house was really haunted, and we kind of like dared ourselves to go and sleep in the guest room in the basement, which was the room that we had played with the Ouija board the most in, and so we were all scared of this room. And I remember we were just laying in the bed, and in front of the bed was like this mirror we had, like this vanity, like this it was like this big mirror we had over a dresser in front of the bed, and it was just super eerie. And we were like, I was like, I was scared, but I was excited to like experience like something paranormal, and like was just kind of like thinking it would be a fun thing to do with my friends. But one of the girls, it was actually like her second time sleeping over my house, and she freaked out. She said something touched her, and I remember looking in the mirror and like seeing her face, and her face looked distorted, and it freaked me out, and we all got freaked out, and we didn't even last 20 minutes in that room. It was probably like 11 p.m. at night, and we just ran. We ran as fast as we could up the stairs and back into my room upstairs. And at the time I thought maybe like she was just playing around, but when we got upstairs, she was genuinely terrified, and she almost called her mom to just take her home, but she felt better once she was upstairs in my room, and we kind of like changed the subject and lightened the mood. But I remember very clearly like how scary that situation was, just like seeing in the mirror like her face looked evil, and like evil in a playful way, just staring back in the mirror, almost like staring right at me through the mirror. But her as like a person is like the sweetest, most innocent girl, and she would never like play a joke like that. And I know now that she was like genuinely terrified of something, and apparently something touched her on the foot, so I'm not sure what that was. And that year is when I noticed, that year going forward, my mom had already been, like, her tradition, like, with her Halloween decorations for Halloween, she would put a scarecrow out in front of our living room window, and the scarecrow would face, our driveway and the sidewalk. And she had been putting this scarecrow out for years, but this year I noticed that every single day this scarecrow would be facing the living room window, like staring right in through our living room window. And every day my mom would go outside and turn it around. And it wouldn't be windy, it wouldn't be like stormy or anything like that. And my mom noticed this as well, and like my whole family noticed how weird it was that no matter how my mom placed the scarecrow in the dirt and how every single time she rotated it so that it would face the driveway and sidewalk, by the next day it would be facing our living room window, just staring in through the window. It really scared me. And I remember around that same time where the scarecrow turned around, my dad woke up in the middle of the night, and because their bedroom window was right next to the living room window, and he said that someone walking in front of their bedroom window woke him up, and he went and searched around the house, and all he saw was the scarecrow. So that really scared me, and I think he thought it was just a neighbor, but yeah, it was really freaky. Also, and this would happen every year. Every Halloween, my mom would put out the scarecrow, and every day it would manage to turn itself around. And after that first Halloween, I did end up moving downstairs. I moved into the master bedroom that was in our basement, and I was trying to be brave because I wanted a master bedroom and I wanted to feel more independent of my parents because I was getting older, and my mom basically told me that I couldn't move down there until I was 17 because she wanted my bedroom next to their bedroom until then. So as soon as I turned 17, I moved right down into that bedroom, and it would scare. There was a lot of times where I would be scared in that room, because I would be the only one in the basement, and that room particularly was just very eerie, and I always felt like there were a lot of times where I felt like someone was watching me. At one point I even thought that someone hacked my Mac desktop and was watching me through the camera. So, I covered the camera and stuff, but I was you have that normal suspicion of wanting to protect yourself from being filmed unknowingly through a laptop or a desktop, but this was way more intense. I would just have almost an overwhelming feeling that someone was constantly watching me. And I think I projected it onto my desktop because I had no other explanation for what could be watching me in that room. But I always felt like something had its eyes on me in that room. And I remember one time I had my bed and a mirror right here, and I was sitting on my floor in between my bed and my mirror, and I was like going through some things, like some clothes, and I like peeked up at my mirror and I saw someone sitting behind me on my bed. And I really could only see them from the waist down, and it looked like a girl. Like a girl was sitting on my bed, and I vaguely remember like hair too, but I don't remember like the top half, like seeing the top half. I just looked up and saw like someone from the waist down sitting on my bed with their legs hanging off the bed, direct like right behind me. And I like, in like a knee-jerk reaction, I turned my head to look and no one was there, but I knew, like, it felt like someone was there. And I ended up leaving my room and just going up the stairs. And there were so many times where I would have to run up those stairs, like almost every time. you know that classic feeling of the scary basement and feeling like you need to run up your stairs or something's gonna grab you. Like, it was constantly like that. Shh. 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 It was. Shh. Shh. So yeah, there was just that constant feeling of somebody watching me and somebody trying to scare me and somebody chasing me up the stairs and out of the basement. And there were several times, too, where I would be upstairs alone in the kitchen, and in our family room in the basement, my nieces would keep a lot of their toys because they would tend to hang out in the family room with their toys while my parents and like their friends and like our friends would come over and hang out in the kitchen. And they had this doll that was motion activated. I don't exactly know how it was motion activated, but you would have to like interact with this doll and it would start talking. It would have like, recorded phrases that it would say. And I don't remember what the phrases were, but there was countless times where I was home alone in the kitchen and I would hear this doll talking in the basement. And I would freeze and get scared because I knew that something was setting it off. Like, the doll would like laugh and like say a phrase, and it would do it over and over again. And like eventually, like, I did go downstairs and like investigate one time and just tried to see like for myself, like if this doll was like I just to like see if there was anything like explainable about this doll going off, and it just continued to go off on its own. And I remember seeing it like in the basket of toys just laying there on top, like facing the ceiling, and it just starts like going off laughing and saying phrases. And at the time I tried to just ignore it and not like feed my fear into it, because I knew deep down that if something paranormal was setting it off, that it was probably intentionally trying to scare me. So I was trying my best to just ignore it. It was so weird. And then I remember one time, I had some friends over. I had a boyfriend at this time, Not the same boyfriend from my Ouija story, but a different boyfriend. This was like my senior year in high school now. So I had a different boyfriend, and I had a few of my friends over, different friends, but they also knew like my haunted house. Like I just had told them a lot about it, and we were in my basement in the pool room, playing pool, and my brothers were upstairs doing their own thing, and we were in the middle of talking about how haunted my house was while we were playing pool. And my two friends, we'll just call them Amy and Jessica, and we'll just call my boyfriend Kenny. We'll just call him Kenny. Basically, we were like telling Jessica the stories, like some of my stories of the haunted house, because Amy and Kenny had already heard a bunch of the stories and like could already feel like the house was haunted. And Jessica was like getting scared and like interested. And at that point, as we were telling her about the house, if you remember me explaining, the pool room was kind of across the hallway from this guest room. And in the guest room, there was a TV, and the TV turns on. And I remember we all just stood there in silence, just so scared and frozen in fear. We got really scared, and we kind of like slowly crept over to the guest room, and Kenny walked in, and we all kind of just watched him, and he looked around in the room to see if anyone was in the room, and no one was there. And so he turned the TV off, and we were like, "See, Jessica, my house is haunted, like I told you." And we were like, "What the heck, that's so weird, maybe like someone has the remote or something." And so we kind of tried to brush it off, and we went back into the pool room, and like 10 minutes later the TV turns back on, and we're a lot more scared at this point. And again we follow Kenny into the guest room, and we watch him unplug the TV, and he just lays the cord on the floor. And so we're like, that is so scary, but let's see what happens now. So we go back into the pool room, but we're too scared to even play pool at this point. We're just standing there waiting, and sure enough, the TV turns on again. So we rush down into the hallway, and the TV had been plugged back in, and the TV was on, and Kenny went in there, and he sat down on the bed and just sat there in front of the TV and just turned it off again. And then we like decided to just leave at that point. We went upstairs and told my brothers, and they were like, they didn't believe us. And I don't think Jessica came over again after that. It was so scary and so weird. And I remember feeling scared for Kenny because he kept going in there and just like sitting on the bed. I was scared that something would happen to him, but he was like I could tell he was scared, but I don't think anything happened to him. And then there was shortly after that, I remember there was a time where my family and I were having a family party with some friends at our house, and I went to bed really late, and I went downstairs into the basement by myself to sleep. It was like 3 a.m, and I probably slept for like 20 minutes or so, and I just woke up to the sound of someone coming down the stairs, because if you remember me explaining in the last video, it was impossible for someone to go down these stairs and not make a noise. Like, our stairs were so creaky, so I heard someone coming, and I could hear someone making their way toward my room, because it was at the end of this long hallway. And I'm just waiting there for someone to, like, either one of my parents or one of my brothers. I'm just sitting in my bed, like, waiting, and I could, like, see my doorway right here. And it's, like, really dark in my room, but I can still see a little bit. And, like, by my doorway was, like, a little bit of light coming in from the window. And I see this tall guy, shadow guy. He had a hat with, like, the brim around it, like a short brim around it, and it looked like he had a suit, but I couldn't really tell. I could really only make out, like, the shoulders. And, like, this really tall, skinny guy, shadow, walks right into my room, because I could see, like, a little bit of light in my doorway. He walks toward me into my room, and in the middle of my room is completely dark, so he blends in to the darkness. But I could feel him standing right here above my bed and staring down at me. And I am so scared. I have, like, the covers like this, and I'm so scared and frozen in fear that I can't even put the blankets over my head. I can't move a muscle. I'm so scared. I'm just completely frozen in fear and just terrified and just waiting and waiting and waiting for something to happen, for me to, like, wake up from a dream, or, like, anything to happen to make it make sense. And because I clearly saw this tall guy walk into my room and then just blend in, like, his shadow, as a shadow, blend in with the darkness in my room. And I literally waited like this in my bed, terrified not to move, for over an hour, until more light started to come in to my room. And eventually enough light was in my room to where I felt comfortable enough to move, and felt like his presence had dissipated at that point. And I remember I was so still afraid of really moving that much that I ended up just grabbing my phone, which was on the bed, which was on a nightstand right next to me. And I grabbed my phone and I texted my dad, "Can you come and check on me?" And because my dad usually woke up really early, so I was hoping that he would wake up early and see his phone. And I kind of still just laid there until more and more light came in. So it was like over an hour and a half, if not 2 hours, that I was just wide awake waiting for more light to come into my room, because I was too scared to even get off my bed and turn the light on. I was too scared to do anything. Like, grabbing my phone was like the most I could do. And eventually enough light came into my room through the window that I finally felt like I could breathe and relax. I ended up going upstairs and I went to my dad's phone and I deleted the text message I sent him, because I didn't want him to wake up and see it and, like, either one, make fun of me for seeing things in my room, or two, being scared of, like, just being unnecessarily scared that there was, like, a man in my room or something like that. Like, I just didn't want to, like, heighten the fear, so I wanted to just delete it. And I remember for a long time I believed that I hallucinated it, because it was just so real. And I remember that party, I had one Corona, I had one beer, and for like a year I believed that the Corona made me hallucinate. But looking back, I don't think I hallucinated. Like, I've had beer since then and it didn't make me hallucinate like that. So it just wasn't explainable. But I had at the time, I just wanted to blame anything else other than it being an actual shadow figure. And it became even more clear that it wasn't a hallucination by the time that I moved out of my house. And also, if you remember from my Ouija story, if you haven't watched the Ouija series, you can check it out on my channel. But I mentioned that I had the Ouija board in the game room, which was part of our laundry room, which was directly across the hallway from this master bedroom that I was staying in, that I was constantly feeling like someone was watching me in. And I believe, looking back, and that's the same room, this game room / laundry room, was the same room that my niece Lexi said hi to a tall man. It was in that room. That's where the Ouija board was. And so now looking back, I do believe that this tall shadow figure man was attached to this Ouija board, and it had made its way like into my room and like would hang out in my room when I lived down there. And I believe that's what I saw that morning. And then when I moved out of my parents' house and moved into an apartment and had taken the Ouija board with me, that's the shadow that was now haunting my apartment that my other boyfriend would claim to see in my apartment. And that's ultimately what led us to get rid of the Ouija board. So yeah, super, super scary. Like, I definitely, like, looking back, it's a lot more clear now what was going on, because during the times it was just easier to just try and brush things off as best as I could and just try and ignore things as best as I could to get on with my everyday life, and even go as far as believing that I was hallucinating when I wasn't. So to go back to the house though, I remember I was one of those family parties that I was having after that shadow incident. My parents were really good friends with a pastor, and he would come to our house and hang out with us a lot. He was my dad's best friend. And I remember, I don't know why, but me, my mom, and we'll just call this guy Bob, me, my mom, and Bob went down into the basement, and I don't remember what we were doing down there, because we would hang out in the kitchen upstairs. And I don't know why it was just us three, but we went into the basement, and it felt like it was happening for a reason that we were going down there. But out of nowhere, I just confessed. Like, I just let out this confession to Bob about how terrified I was of not only the house, but this basement in particular. And we found ourselves in the game room right where the Ouija board was. And I didn't even point the Ouija board out. I wasn't even linking it to the Ouija board at that point. Like, it was just a game to me at that point. But we were right there in front of the Ouija board, and Bob decided to say a prayer right then and there. And it made me feel so much better. And basically he said a prayer, and then basically told me that I don't have to be afraid, because I can call on Jesus to protect me, and my guardian angels will come and surround me and protect me, and I don't have anything to fear as long as I remember to do that. And it gave me a lot of it felt like I was taking my power back by hearing his advice, and because I wanted to know how him and my mom were not afraid like me, And my dad and my brothers were, and everyone else, my friends and my nieces and my nephew, like we were all afraid of that house. And my mom and Bob, were like, you don't have to be afraid. This is why we're not afraid, is because we know that we can call on Jesus at any time. And so that felt like it gave me, my power back and empowered me. And there was one last freaky thing about that house that I remember before moving out. After that was I had a big party. We had a big party at my house, and drinking and smoking and stuff. And I left my own party and I went to a friend's house while the party was still going on at my house. And this guy went into my bathroom in the basement, and apparently he thought something was trying to attack him, he claims. And he pulled out his gun and he shot his gun off in my bathroom. And it was so surreal for me because nobody told me that it happened. I just came home early that morning after everyone had already left, went into my bathroom and saw my bathroom mirror shattered and broken glass, like broken mirror all over my bathroom, and a hole through my bathroom wall outwards. And I was in shock and I didn't know what to do, and everyone was, either asleep or gone in my house. I didn't have anyone to talk to. And so I just felt like, okay, I'll just deal with this when my dad and my mom wake up and tell them what happened. I didn't know what happened at that point, but I was just like, okay, I'll ask them what happened when they wake up. But for now, I just want to shower. And so I got in my shower, and it was just so surreal to see, like, this bullet hole staring back at me while I was trying to shower, and, like, just having a broken mirror all over my bathroom. And all I could think about was, what if I was in my room and this person who shot their gun off, what if they were turned around and had shot through my bedroom wall? And, like, my life, like, it's like it wasn't a close call, but it was just like it hit me really hard. Like, wow, like, life is so fragile that just a couple of, like, minor details could have changed the scenario to where I could have been hit by this bullet. Like, that's what it felt like to me. And it was just very terrifying. Long story short, it was an accident, and the person was very sorry and very remorseful and paid for a new mirror and vanity for my bathroom, and I got a small bathroom upgrade because of that. And my parents were very chill and calm about it, and, like, basically we just didn't make a big deal out of it and moved on. But that was the last scary thing to happen to me in that house. And it was super bizarre that this guy felt like something was going after him and attacking him specifically in that bathroom, which was the bathroom of that master bedroom, which was, right across the hallway from where the Ouija board was. So I don't know if this shadow man was what was going after this person, or what had happened, or if it was just some drunken mistake. I'm not sure, but it was definitely the grand finale to happen in that basement of the house. And I'm just glad that no one was hurt and that we learned from our mistakes and moved on from there. So that that concludes my haunted house series. I'm going to continue telling scary stories, a mix of paranormal stories and true crime stories. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, or if you want to hear more stories by me, then go ahead and hit my subscribe button. And it would mean a lot to me if you gave my like button a hug and a pat on the head. Thank you for listening, and that's all for now.
Hyper. Why are you so cute?